Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, November 5th, 5:25 a.m. Central Time. Grain markets are marginally higher this morning. December corn futures up 1/4 cent at 4.16 3/4. January soybeans up 1 3/4 at 9.99. December Chicago wheat up 1 3/4 at 5.70 1/2. December Kansas City wheat is up 3 at 5.74. December spring wheat is up 3 at 6.08. Today is election day. Mackenzie, did you vote?
Oh, I sure did last week early.
I have not voted. I'm like the only person that I know that didn't early vote. Everybody I know early voted. So I'm hoping the lines aren't too bad today because I've got to go later. Okay, let's start off with the Trump trade.
All right, so increased skepticism of a Trump victory caused the dollar to weaken and Treasury yields to decline on Monday. The yield on 10-year Treasury bonds declined by as much as 12 basis points to 4.26%. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index dropped by as much as 0.7%. Polling data from the Des Moines Register that indicated a lead for Harris over Trump in Iowa triggered the moves. Investors had been anticipating a Trump victory, aligning their investments with the expectation that his low tax and high tariff policies would promote economic growth and increase inflation. Also on Monday, with reduced chances of Trump tariffs, the Mexican peso rose as much as 1.6% against the dollar, and the yuan gained as much as 0.6%.
The more I look at all of this, I don't know that this is necessarily Trump losing momentum. I feel as if a lot of this is more like pre-election position squaring. We talk about that when it comes to USDA reports. It's pre-report position squaring. I think we're seeing some of that. We talked about the polls yesterday. The polls are deeply flawed, and the more polls that I see, the more confusing this becomes. I pulled the betting markets this morning. Predict It, which is a fairly popular one, has the election basically at a dead heat. Then you look at Polymarket, which I was told is being manipulated in some way, shape, or form, has Trump as a heavy favorite, 63% chance. And then Sports Handle, which is more of a Vegas indication, it says Trump has a 58.8% chance of being elected. So it's kind of all over the place. The polls are telling you one thing, the betting market's telling you maybe a little bit different thing. I don't think anybody has a damn clue. I would be prepared in a lot of these markets as it relates to our crowd, probably the soybean market, but other markets as well, stock market, treasuries, currencies. Be prepared for some volatility as these results populate tonight and into tomorrow. And there's no guarantee that we even know who the winner is by tomorrow morning, but we may. So be prepared for some volatility. That's the only thing I would tell you.
StoneX reduced its forecast for this season's U.S. corn and soybean crops. On Monday, the firm cut its estimate for this season's corn yield to 183.7 bushels per acre, lower than its previous projection of 184 bushels per acre. Total corn production is estimated at 15.193 billion bushels, down from 15.22 billion. StoneX cut its projection for this season's soybean yield to 52.6 bushels per acre, down from its previous estimate of 53.5 bushels per acre. Total soybean production is forecast at 4.539 billion bushels, down from 4.613 billion.
Stone is down from their previous estimates. I'm told this mainly has to do with dryness in the Eastern Corn Belt. The new Stone national corn yield number is very close to USDA. USDA is at 183.8, Stone's at 183.7. The soybean number is a little bit more interesting. Stone has the soybean number at 52.6. USDA is at 53.1. That half a bushel difference is substantial. I took the balance sheet and I plugged in that 52.6 and left everything else unchanged. It results in a reduction in the ending stocks of about 45 million bushels if you leave all else unchanged. You leave harvested acreage, beginning stocks, all the demand numbers unchanged. Your carryout would still be 505 million bushels, which implies a stocks to use ratio of 11.5%. To put that in perspective, 11.5% is, yes, slightly lower than the 12.5 that's being implied right now as of the most recent report, but it's still not bull market territory by any means. It's still a very burdensome situation. It's more similar to what we saw in, say, 2018, 18-19 marketing year was crazy because of the trade war. The 19-20 marketing, it's not close to the bull markets that we saw in 2021 and 2022. So the U.S. situation still, even with that yield cut, is still kind of burdensome. The global situation is hugely negative. USDA is projecting when you combine their numbers that they don't print these stocks to use ratio numbers. You've got to calculate them yourself. But the stocks to use ratio projection for the world, 33.4%, is the highest on record going back to 40 years or something like that. So we've still got a big soybean problem, but I suppose that a lower yield number would, if they print it on Friday or at some point in the future, would help the bull case to at least some degree.
So if you guys have not checked out our premium content, you sure need to do so. Joe, can you tell me about some of our recent premium videos?
Matt Bennett was on Wednesday last week, creative ways to make storage pay. Matt was in the grain elevator business. How do they use carry and basis and spreads to make money, essentially, and how can that relate to and help farmers? I did a grain marketing review on Thursday last week. Corn, soybeans, wheat, old crop, new crop, 24, 25. Every sale that I've advised, cash sales, broken down by crop year, and percentage. I also talked about the spreads, capture and carry, what I did there, what I've advised. If you guys are looking for a simple approach to grain marketing, you should check this out. Yesterday, Chris Barron was on. I ran a subscriber survey regarding 2025 acreage, specifically corn and soybeans. There were only 3 possible answers to the survey. It was, do you plan to plant more corn versus 24, more soybeans versus 24, or no change versus 24? We ran through the survey results. We ran through some 2025 budget items, which where Chris talked about the profitability aspects, the lack of profitability rather, with regard to both crops. Really great stuff. We had some charts and PowerPoints that were available for download. If you guys want to see the premium stuff, go to standardgrain.com. You can sign up this morning. It's a $50 per month subscription. You can cancel at any time. No other fee, no other obligation. Nobody try to sell you anything else. This deal is super easy to sign up for on your phone. It'll take you like 30 seconds. Credit card, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Cash App. Everything is easily accessible on your phone. It's one click to play the videos. It's one click to open the email and look at it. There's no PDF or anything. Check that deal out this morning, guys.
Corn and soybean harvests are nearing completion and well ahead of schedule. The U.S. corn crop was 91% harvested nationally through Sunday, compared to 81% the previous week and 75% on average. Harvest progress is the fastest since 2012. States that have harvested 95% of the crop or more include Illinois, Minnesota, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. U.S. soybeans were 94% harvested nationally through Sunday, compared to 89% the prior week and 85% on average. Harvest pace is tied with 2022. The last time harvest pace actually exceeded 94% complete for this time period was back in 2005. Only Kentucky and North Carolina are running at below average harvest pace.
Pace of harvest has been incredibly fast, but we've still got 9% of the corn crop to harvest and 6% of the soybean crop to harvest as of Sunday. There has been some rain in parts of Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, into Kansas, Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and there's some more on the radar here this morning. Pretty active. This is all in all a good thing. Yeah, if you got some acres left to harvest, this will hold you up for a little bit. Maybe you could use a day off, but this is a big deal with regard to river levels. The river is supposed to return to something that resembles normal by early next week, and that's a very good thing. It'll reduce costs to move corn and soybeans down the river. It'll make our grain more competitive on the export market, and we're already competitive, but it'll make it more competitive. May help on the fertilizer front. To move this stuff up the river is more expensive when the water levels are low. So this is a big deal for a number of reasons. Forecast still hinting at or implying a lot of rain for these HRW wheat areas in Kansas, Oklahoma, western areas of those states. That rain would be very much welcome if it does occur.
So U.S. winter wheat conditions are the second worst since 1986. The crop was rated 41% good to excellent through Sunday, compared to 38% the prior week and 45% on average. Despite the record low good to excellent crop rating, only 23% of the crop was rated poor to very poor. Forecasted rainfall in the next 2 weeks is expected to boost conditions. The crop was 87% planted through Sunday, compared to 80% last week and 89% on average.
It's a low rating and you read the headline and it doesn't sound good. The market doesn't really care about this because there's just not much correlation at all between fall ratings and final yields. 36% of the crop, winter wheat, is rated fair. And so you don't have, as Mackenzie mentioned, a ton of it rated poor to very poor. So the ratings could be better, I don't think the market sees much of an issue here right now.
Brazilian soybean planting is progressing at a brisk pace, according to well-followed private group Ag Rural. As of last Thursday, Brazilian farmers had planted 54% of the total expected soybean area, up from 36% the prior week. Planting pace is the second fastest on record for the time period. During the same week last year, 51% of the crop had been planted. Over the last 2 weeks, more than 42 million acres have been planted, accounting for 36% of total planting progress.
They've caught up and very quickly. The forecast is wet, which is good in Brazil during planting season. They need the rains to plant. If they plant in excessively dry conditions before the wet season returns, they risk emergence failure. They risk replant, all that stuff. So they don't mess around with planting until it gets wet in Brazil, and it's wet and the forecast is wet. So now that you're more than have planted, fast forward a month, 6 weeks, if you run into a week or two of dry weather, you can run into crop scare events, very similar to what you'd see here in the summer. Brazil is such a big deal when it comes to the soybean market and soybean production now that if it gets dry for a week or two, or you've even got a dry forecast, the soybean market, even here in the United States, will react acutely to that. So if you've got soybeans that you need to market, be aware of the kind of new seasonality that's out there. We trade weather in November, December, into January with regard to Brazil and the soybean crop. And most crop scare events, not all, but most crop scare events are excellent marketing opportunities. So keep that in mind as we move forward here during the next 2-3 months.
U.S. soybean shipments declined last week but remain relatively strong. USDA reported that 79 million bushels of beans were inspected for export during the week ending October 31st. The print was down 18% from the previous week and down 1.1% compared to the same week last year. Corn shipments were near the lower end of pre-report expectations at 31 million bushels. The print was down 7.3% compared to the previous week, but up 36% versus the same week last year. Wheat shipments fell below expectations at 7 million bushels. The print was down 34% from the previous week, but up 69% versus the same week last year.
A decent soybean print, you've got to see these numbers above 2 million and really better than that this time of year. Corn number was pretty good. We're shipping a ton of corn to Mexico, and they've been our largest buyer. So I guess no surprise there. I can't help but wonder if this pace of both sales and shipments of corn to Mexico can sustain itself.
We did have 3 flash sales yesterday. U.S. exporters sold 6 million bushels of corn to Mexico and 5 million bushels of corn to unknown destinations for delivery during the current marketing year. U.S. exporters also sold 5 million bushels of soybeans to unknown destinations for delivery during the current marketing year.
Nothing really sizable. This is the time of year you see a lot of flash sales. More corn to Mexico, so they're still interested. What did cattle do yesterday?
Cattle futures were lower. Live cattle were 45 cents to 97 cents lower. Feeders were 52 cents to $1.25 lower. Box beef was higher. Choice ended the day at $316.91. That was up 57 cents. Select ended the day at $287.16. That was up $213.
Outside markets are mixed this morning. U.S. dollars off. Stocks are higher. The S&P's up 15. Dow Jones is up 80. Bonds are about flat. Crude oil is up 30 cents, and the December WTI is 71.77. Have a great day, guys. Get out and vote. We'll be back on Wednesday.